So with the transition from June to July, we had our monthly report for June, starting with the CIG LA office. In engineering, the item system is the number one on the list at the moment. They're making some major improvements to the use and interaction system of Star Citizen, and it does look cool, as we'll see a little snippet of it when we talk about bug smashes. Tech design, they have updated the cooling and heat functionality of the ships. They have increased the fuel tank size for the Jean Katu Al, and they have fixed clipping issues with the Mustang Delta and the Cutlass. There is focus on the Caterpillar features, which some of these will expand into other things you can do in the game as well. The functional tractor beam is one. They have finished the design aspect of not just the beam itself, but the control terminal as well. The Reliant is also getting its final tech design completed and many bugs cleaned up. In art, they are working hard on 2.5 clothing. They are fine-tuning and revisiting a Caterpillar concept piece, also working on space station stylization, and they have completed creating pristine materials for the light armor phase 1, and they're now onto the medium marine armor. They have completed the Caterpillar interior. They're just now working on the engineering room and the cargo module. I so cannot wait to see this Caterpillar. It's going to be amazing. In animation, they're adapting the quicker entry and exit animations ship to ship. They're working on life animations for the persistent universe, including work zones, mess halls, nightclubs and bars, medical and all manner of the world life. They're finalising the feel of the gameplay for the base stocked weapons, so things like shotguns and rifles, and pistols. And they're also working on animation for the railgun. They're working on a cover system to ensure that the distances players leaving cover is consistent and readable. That is very important. And they're also updating and improving the jump mechanics and animations, and committed a hip direction switch that happens when you are without your weapon, so your hips will flip naturally in the direction you are going, but then when you have a weapon they will obviously stay where they were, as you are only moving your top half because you're pointing the weapon. Very cool is that, and it's something they must have taken from Battlefield series, because I know they do it as well. So on global tech content, armor and loadouts have been converted to use the new item system. They are now moving on to Helmet 2.0 setup. I have no idea what that is, but it definitely sounds cool. Riggers are working on the male Navy medical doctor and started reviewing the PU clothing. They've completed work creating character archetypes for Squadron 42, along with a male Shuban miner uniform animation. That was a mouthful. So, QA. They're working on 2.5, naturally, taking a preliminary look at the procedural planets, and they are very excited themselves. I'm sure they are being able to get their hands on it. They're also hammering away at the shield systems for ships. They're taking some early swings at procedural generation for planetary exploration. That just sounds so cool. And they've performed some preliminary tests on the Dragonfly and the Reliant. They're now looking at EVA physics, keyboard controller functionality, and in-game animations. So, on to Austin, Texas. In development, they are further fleshing out shopping via kiosks, selling commodities, and remote storage. The primary focus now is iterating on feedback from Chris Roberts for purchasing via kiosks. They want this functionality online as soon as possible. Then they can add new shops and inventory to the game. Things like Dumper's Depot, where you can get shipped weapons and components. I really can't wait to go into Dumper's Depot and just pick up like a new cooler. Anyway, they're plugging away at the Hornet F7A and the Herald, both in the final art stages. They're working on a lighting pass with the UK for Grimhex. They're also working on the enter and exit quicker speeds. Currently, they've got the Hornet and the Super Hornet, or they're working on them at the moment, getting it in there. They're getting some specific animations set up in-game for Subsumption, which is your peaceful NPC AI system. Polishing animations like sitting on couches, leaning against walls, interacting with terminals, inspecting weapons, standing idle, so on and so forth. Loads of different natural poses and animations that will just make people in the verse, the NPCs, look like they're actually real, rather than just standing around in a corner waiting to be spoken to. Finally, the development team are nailing down metrics on several animation sets, including going to bed, gripping tools and handles, console interactions, and the bar scene. So in game support, they have redefined and updated the publish process to streamline getting builds out to us. The result will be less downtime, fewer mistakes, and increased communication. IT and operations, they have continued work on the internal delivery tools, decreasing patch sizes and rolling it out to QA for testing, which means it will be coming to us pretty soon. So Foundry 42 in the UK, the concept team just wrapped up a new ship which looks awesome. They didn't specify. Now focus is back on the Claus and Werner FPS weapon design and fleshing out that family, in addition to some work on the new Corvette. A new small vehicle has also been worked up and passed straight to the production team. Could be the Dragonfly. Ship items and props, they say, are ripping along well, and the whole universe feels far more cohesive. Next up, they are addressing the ship weapons and how to make more from less, basically. So the environmental team, They have moved into final art phase for most of the Shubin interior levels. They're hardening up the Levski landing zone environment and bedding it into the procedural tech. They say it feels really cool flying from space and onto a planet. They're also working on the lighting for Grimhex Station 2, so it'll be something special. We'll see a bit more of that in Around the Verse this Sunday. Very, very nice. In props, shields, coolers, power plants, quantum drives are all on their final art pass. They finished up the last few avionics modules. Work has also progressed with the usable items, so allowing players and AI to fully interact with the props and environment. They're moving on to smaller vehicle components to support the release of the Dragonfly. Obviously the Dragonfly has a class below your Auroras and your Mustangs. They're like a minuscule sort of component. In spaceships, they say substantial progress has been made on the Bengal. As we've seen in the previous Around the Verse, the main hangar, the hangar lift, is wrapping up shortly along with the interior and the exterior bridge. The Idris interior has a few rooms left to do. They'll be moving on to the final polish and then lighting and exterior damage. And if they're working on damage for the Idris, that means it's practically flyable now. I do hope they release it to us, but then again, I don't know. I can't decide. Anyway, every Idris improvement they make will directly benefit the Javelin. The Javelin's hangar look and feel has taken time to get it sort of decided because it's needed for Squadron 42. They obviously want to get it all right. The Argo is also wrapping up. Several improvements to the pod has been done since we last saw it. They're doing a lot of work to make sure the Vandal ships look great, and the focus at the moment is on the Driller, which is a carrier, sort of Vandal carrier at the moment. Very, very cool. I do hope that these Vandal ships and the Vandal themselves are super scary. Anyway, in graphics, the gas cloud tech is undergoing a major change. It looks better and provides better performance. They've improved the HDR effects with upgrades to the exposure control system. New physically based bloom and lens flare have been enabled and will be part of the next release to us, which is cool. In animation, they're focusing on the core FPS elements of the game. New pistol and stocked reload animations have been worked on to give it a bit more weight and feel. Also, selecting and deselecting weapons have been given another pass, and they're also getting a more polished first-person and third-person system online very, very soon. I'm very much looking forward to the animations for FPS. It needs to just be a bit more smoother. Obviously, it's still early days, and they've got a lot up their sleeve to give to us, but the sooner they get it out, the better. In engineering, they've got a prototype for the in-game VoIP, which has wide-ranging implications for the persistent universe. VoIP is another thing that is very important. They're also undertaking maintenance for ship audio. They're syncing some of the animations and then bug fixing. They've established audio structure for the playable Idris. They're designing the tone and the first pass implementation for the Idris ambience, so that's the background noise just in general. They're working on new explosion sounds, so smaller ships are not so overbearing as larger ones. They're working on a pass-by sound for the Starfarer. Obviously, when it flies past you, it's got to sound much bigger than things like an M50. Also working on ambience for Grimhex. We saw this in Around the Verse Part 2. They're changing the ambience process so that's more capable when it comes to head tracking and VR, which is very cool. So you're going to actually feel and hear, you're going to hear things where they actually are when you're using VR. They're also revising and improving the FPS weapon audio and lots of Squadron 42 audio work, but nothing really specified. So in visual effects, they're performing general maintenance on smoke, fire and explosions. More work is done on weapon impact effects variants. There's been a polish pass on a new laser cannon and a visual effects pass for a new PU location. Ooh. Also effects pass on the Flight Ready Reliant. In design, they are working out expanding the content for 2.7 live release for the Stanton system. There's lots of cool stuff in that release, including a new landing and takeoff. They're working on the Mobiglass, in particular a star map app. The Dragonfly is feeling very fun, they say. It's different to what we're used to. It's going to be very, very cool getting our hands on that. So, Foundry 42 Frankfurt, talking about weapons. They're polishing up the existing Bearing ship weapon, making a new size 5 variant, and on the FPS side they have finished the ballistic smart ammo and first pass texturing on the Bearing P8 SC submachine gun. In cutscenes they say the last mocap shoot for Squadron 42 is being prepped. In the engine side they are smoothing out animation code, working on head bobbing, eye stabilisation and head stabilisation. They say they'll have something to show off soon, and they've made good leaps in procedural planets and toolsets. In AI, say lots of work has been done for subsumption. They also explained a lot about how it sort of works, and it's not something that I can really explain in bullet point form, so I do suggest checking it out if you are interested. There's quite a long section on subsumption. In design, they're focused on figuring out how the Vandal behaviours work. They want them to be special and unique compared to fighting a human opponent. So they need to offer a complete change in combat style. They say they're going to be faster paced, more explosive and melee-heavy combat. They're also reworking the way docking in stations works, and all the services available to you once you've docked. There's a big issue with players not having enough landing pads at the moment, as we can all agree, so they're working on an automated system to handle how pads are allocated, how you dock, undock, and how your ship is stored. The goal, they say, is to get players and ships off the docking hangars as quick as possible, so that opens up for more people. They're starting the design and overarching security and criminality systems to help detect wrongdoers and report them to NPC authorities. Now, they say the idea is to be lenient towards players who make honest mistakes, so, you may accidentally bump into something, but they want the world to react in a ruthless way to abusers, so people who are constantly spamming people, trolling people, then yes, the whole world will react to them and can attack them in some form of way. Anyway, they want to make it so that the NPCs take matters into their own hands based on the law of that region of space. They cannot personally be everywhere at once, so the system must be able to take care of itself, and I do agree with that. Very, very good. So FPS Suit is getting a rework, more modular. You'll be able to swap out components and adjust it to what they need. And if you saw the last ATV where we looked at the Moby-Glass, or was it the first 100 episode of ATV, we looked at the Moby-Glass and some of the little features that you'll get, like CPUs, your battery life, all sorts of stuff for your FPS Suit. Very, very cool. They're developing a new breed of modular deployable gadgets as well for players to customize as they see fit. So instead of maybe having your holo shield and so forth as separate items, you can probably pick up this one item and then program it to what you want it to do. They also say Grimhex will evolve over the next few releases by opening up new areas, so on and so forth. Levski, they say, is going to be placed on the Stanton system for testing. So this is when 2.7. Levski is obviously in the Nyx system on an asteroid, but to get it tested, they say they're going to put it down on the Stanton planet. So they're also making additional hangars for parking, a new road access, and parking for visitors coming on foot or driving along the planet's surface. They're also adding bedrooms for players to be able to sleep and respawn there. Now this is pretty cool, because obviously, as we know, it is in the Nyx system, it is on an asteroid, so driving to it would actually not be possible. But they're putting it on Stanton, on the Stanton planet in particular, so that we can test it and then, maybe able to drive around the planet. 2.7, my god, my world will stop when that comes out. Anyway, in behaviour, on the engineering side, they have integrated missing features from the optimised hologram framework called Render to Target. And basically ships using the screen holograms are affected, plus you get better frame rates. Also, ships with empty screens like the Vanguard, the Sabre and the Avenger will now correctly display holograms. The Moby-Glass shopping app will give us a better feedback on the status of our purchase request, plus solid server and client fixes for improved stability. In design, they have finished working on the Outlaw shops. Also, a lot more work on many areas of Grimhex. Art, they say they have continued work on the abandoned Imperial asteroid belt base. Again, I'm assuming this is Grimhex. They want the environment to give clues on what happened in the different sections, so you'll have visuals for the habitation pods reflecting purposeful rearrangements of furniture and objects after the pods were constructed, sort of as if dweller groups were in different pods and trying to differentiate themselves from others, sort of like a gang mentality. Shops also contained objects that show how the owners conducted business and went about their daily lives, and also they've added a bit of polish on a mining world they previously helped to create, so I'm assuming that would be Levski. Anyway, Turbulent, they say they created the multi-factor authentication. As we know, there will be a post coming out to show us how it works, even more secure ways for logging into your account. Communications platform, they are releasing a functional version of the new communications platform. This includes a chat and a new forum. It will go through internal QA only. They're also adding features like bookmarking and search on the website, so this will come to us pretty soon, hopefully. And finally, the game launcher. They say they have the first version of the new launcher by the end of summer. Anyway, there's a lot of information to digest there. Let me know what you're excited for. Let me know what you like. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all the usual social media stuff. Links are down in the bottom. Thank you very much, and I shall see you next time.